Some nervous systems become incredibly skilled at reading emotional atmosphere, and that they begin adapting their body, their words, the way they speak almost immediately. And that's because our system tries to resolve disconnection before disconnection even forms. And oftentimes, this is where exhaustion begins. Constantly having to translate ourselves in ways that we can help other people perceive us. Hi, I'm Jana Shalom, and this is Interrupting the Survival Spiral. In these videos, we name survival patterns and myths that many of us were taught to see as personal failure when they're actually collective. This isn't about debate or motivation. It's about clarity. And when patterns are named calmly, the nervous system has more choice. And when choice returns, this is where regulation grows. On today's episode of Interrupting the Survival Spiral, we'll be discussing when awareness becomes linked to the need for us to immediately adjust ourselves in order to preserve connection. Something I've noticed about myself is that when I write, I don't usually edit while I'm in the writing process. I allow the words to come through just as they are. I allow the thoughts to move as clearly or as unclearly as they like. And the writing just kind of flows. It moves naturally, and there's very little pressure for me to shape it or to make it more acceptable until the moment I begin thinking about another person reading it. And as soon as I begin imagining that, I can feel something inside of my nervous system begin to shift. And the shift is almost immediate. It's as though I'm automatically starting to scan all of the ways that this writing might be misunderstood or misinterpreted or maybe even rejected. Because maybe this experience might be too intense for someone. I want to protect them. So I begin wondering, how might this land? And before conscious choice fully even enters into the moment, I often notice myself already adjusting. I soften the language. I start providing clarity if I think that there might be confusion. I reshape sentences, and I begin translating myself into something that I think might be easier for someone on the other end to receive. What feels important here is that the adjustment begins before a conscious decision. Something in my nervous system responds when I think about the pattern of conversation that might occur when speaking to someone about what I just wrote. I notice the same pattern in conversation. I'll begin speaking with someone. I'll feel present with them. I'll feel connected with them, and then something will change. There might be a pause or a change in facial expression or a sense of distance, or I might sense tension. And all of a sudden, before I've even fully understood what any of this means, my nervous system already begins adjusting. My wording shifts. My posture changes. My tone might soften. I begin offering more explanation, more context, or I take away something and I don't give as full of a picture as I think that the story actually needs. Sometimes I can feel myself actually moving away from what I even originally meant, while simultaneously just trying to maintain the connection. I start moving away from what I really wanted to get out of this conversation in fear of rejection from the other person. What I want to say about that is all of that makes sense when we're looking at the need to belong and the need to have connection. And so when that feels threatened, it makes sense that we're going to adjust ourselves. But this is what is important here. Many nervous systems learn very, very early that awareness is not simply awareness. When we become aware of someone else's reactions, then we automatically become responsible for them. Many of our bodies learned that noticing the discomfort in another means that there's a requirement of us to have an immediate response. If tension appears, we need to adjust. If distance appears, we need to stabilize. If emotional shifts appear, we need to respond. Over time, this awareness becomes a cue for self-modification. I need to adjust myself. I need to change myself. I'm not going to be included if I don't. The focus shifts away from participating in the interaction and moves towards managing the interaction. And some nervous systems become incredibly skilled at reading emotional atmosphere, and that they begin adapting their body, their words, the way they speak, almost immediately. And that's because our system tries to resolve disconnection before disconnection even forms. And oftentimes, this is where exhaustion begins. Constantly having to translate ourselves in ways that we can help other people perceive us. In this way, our nervous systems are no longer relating. Now our nervous system is carrying responsibility, the responsibility of preserving the relationship and the connection. Over time, these adaptations, these adjustments that we begin to make, start to feel like our personality. I am so highly considerate and I am so accommodating. But really, they're just survival strategies rearing their ugly head, reminding me that, wait a minute, being easygoing, deeply aware, highly focused on how someone else thinks or feels are actually skills that I learned through survival. And though they feel like personality, they're actually just automatic reflexes that I haven't put conscious thought to. Many nervous systems learn early in life that if we don't adjust, it's going to carry a consequence. There might be criticism, conflict, distance, or even unpredictable reactions. So our bodies respond quickly, and they do this in an effort to maintain connection, to maintain belonging, and to maintain a sense that I can still be seen and witnessed. I might just not be able to be the full me. Responsiveness slowly becomes hyper-responsibility. And the survival spiral forms in that linkage. Awareness triggers self-correction. Noticing begins to create pressure to become something different. And at a certain point, many nervous systems begin to operate from this unspoken rule. If someone becomes uncomfortable, I must adjust myself to restore connection. And this rule lives beneath awareness, but it organizes the entire interaction. Even small changes can create pressure for us to provide clarity. We might want to not say such a sharp word, or we might want to explain more, or we might even reorganize our own thoughts and feelings in real time in accordance to their thoughts and feelings. The survival spiral is brilliant, and in the fact that it naturally has us self-correct once awareness comes in. However, moving out of the survival spiral and into the re-inhabiting spiral means that we have to learn to relate to emotional conditions differently. Because over time, this is going to create exhaustion, and it's going to create an internal need to not allow our full self to be present, because our full self has never been truly welcomed. The cost of this is the gradual loss of truth to our own self. Awareness does not need to require self-correction. Another person's discomfort, confusion, or emotional responses can exist without it being a directive that we need to change ourselves or that we've done anything wrong. Noticing is not the same as responsibility for resolution. Many nervous systems have never been taught that distinction because awareness and responsibility come as the same thing. And when we begin to separate them, something else becomes visible. Wait a minute, I don't actually have to change or adjust myself. I can notice what's happening and leave it right there. That's the interruption.